We hope you're having a great day. Today, I've got with us Dr. Don Reno, who is out of Michigan, Sterling Heights, Michigan, exactly. He has served with the Michigan Association of Chiropractors. He has served as their president, as their chairman of their board. Is that right, Doctor?
That's true.
Yes. So he has fulfilled a ton of different key roles for Michigan. Additionally, currently he is serving as the government affairs work group leader for the Chiropractic Future Strategic Plan, which is the national strategic plan that was really born and developed by the profession itself. I encourage you to check that out. But today we're going to be talking about Dr. Reno. Let's talk about the steps that you're taking in your practice to ensure that when you make that decision ultimately to retire or sell your practice, that the practice actually has good value and is appropriately positioned for that sale. If that works for you, give us some ideas. What are some steps that you've taken in your practice to position your practice?
Well, I'm a fan of the number seven, so I came up with seven ideas a number of years ago as to how I could value my practice and make it in an attractive business and not necessarily an attractive practice per se. So I know in our earlier discussions a few weeks back, we talked about this subject, and I think that it's important to be a member of your community, and it's never too late if you're an individual who puts the key in the front door and locks it up and goes home and you're not really involved in, let's say you live in a remote area. It's important for you to be what I say the joiner and supporting other businesses in the area. So we've been a joiner, we've been a regular member of our Chamber of Commerce on multiple levels. We've been at the larger side of the chamber, but especially more so in the intimate surroundings with small business groups. So those are resources that have costs, but the return on investment is great with the Chamber of Commerce. And we kind of I opened my practice in 1987, and there were a number of businesses that were in the area that also opened up at the same time. Amazingly, most of them are still there and in business. So we're talking 35 years ago. We made friendships. We had social life. We made friends with other healthcare providers in the area, dental practice, medical practices in the area. So we do know other entities and we share the same challenges as those businesses. So those
I
two
assume,
factors are important.
now, I assume when you say not just member, but I assume you're participating in the events that they hold in the community as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we've got a large uh, party like atmosphere going on in our community this week. And if you want to, you can volunteer. It's called Sterling Fest. Bring in rock bands, music, carnival atmosphere, and it's also a place to be seen and rub elbows with people in the community. So we'll be doing some of that today, or
Well,
this coming weekend, I should say.
great. What are some other things that you've done that you feel like, hey, this was a key part of making sure that the practice has continual value?
Well, we established a social media image. I think we didn't hire a social media expert, but I think hiring a branding expert nowadays is the way to go. We started out before branding was a major emphasis. So I encourage practices here in Michigan that consult with us at at the MAC to hire someone at low cost as for branding, and you'll be recognized as that. I'm near a transition in my career. And as a result of the branding that I did in the community, there's a group practice that has 5 clinics that are now actually approached us and we're in talks to transition our practice into their group. And the reason why they felt comfortable was they looked at the branding, they saw the branding, they know the practice model, and they feel comfortable with co-oping with us through a transition and an acquisition.
Yeah, an interesting starting point for that actually may even be something simple as Donald Miller's book, Story Brand, right? And that would give potentially at least an opportunity for doctors to be able to say, okay, what does this look like, or what might it look like? How do I get it off the ground? And then your suggestion I think is also incredibly wise, which is, there are those that help with your branding, and that would help. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the other thing to take a look at too, and I was sharing with Mark before we started the call about some statistics that came out of the state of Illinois in relation to the transition of family businesses. And there is the 30-13-3, and each stands for a percentage. And the declining percentages as you go through 3 generations of transition into family business, 30% of the businesses survive. And let's quantify survival. Survival isn't just the passing of the business. Does that business make it to the next generation? So if your members are going to pass in the family legacy, you need to take a very strong look at what that's going to look like if you want this awesome legacy you've created in this huge value of the business, and how that's going to bless the future generations in your family. So the 30-13-3 gives me goosebumps to see that some businesses just fall off the vine so very, very quickly. And if you're not going to have a family legacy, such as myself, we don't have children, so I'm not passing it on to my children, to take a look if you're going to pass it on to a corporate entity, or if you're going to pass it on to an associate who's currently in your practice, and set them up for a win and get them involved in the community.
What else have you seen? Anything you've seen, or even this, Doc, if you want to talk about things that you've looked at and said, I wish I would have. Are there any, whichever direction you want to go on that?
Yeah, I think to some degree, I wish I had paid a little bit more attention to the 10-15 year window of the changes in the social media world, dedicated somebody a little bit more to that. I think that is a huge value. It seems like social media, got a brush off from the people who were born in the 50s and 60s, such as myself, but it still really rules a lot of businesses and healthcare especially. So I wish I had invested more in that. Probably a little bit more investment in the time with the medical profession per se. I know chiros a lot of times are hesitant in addressing and telling the story to the medical profession, but look what happened with COVID. I know that if I had invested a little bit more, I believe those offices are now filled with the people who should be in the chiropractic practices and not in the medical world. There, individuals are getting prescriptions for mood altering aches and pains, you name it. That's all related to stress. And now the human beings that are in our population can't adjust to that. So I would say a little more intimate relationship with some of the medical folks in my community.
Yeah, that's good too. So I want to touch on something you brought it up a couple of times, but surrounding social media and your marketing, if you will. I think there's sometimes a concept that what happens is our doctors say, okay, well, I've got all the new patients right now. I'm really not going to accept new patients. I can back off on my marketing. And I think that can also be a trap, because we look at the marketing really for today and forget that actually your marketing and your branding and your social media presence and all of that lend itself to a stronger business overall. And ultimately, you don't want to really back off during those times. Maybe you modify how you do it, or the messaging, or if you will, the call to action. But at the end of the day, whatever you do, don't pull back completely, even though you feel like you can, because it will damage your brand. It will damage the overall value of the practice. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, am I right on that in what you've seen in the research?
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. The question is, and I get questions regularly about what's the value of my practice. Can you help me evaluate my practice? Not being a professional evaluator, I do know that your practice is whatever someone's willing to pay you for it. I do know that. And if you have done your due diligence on your practice, you're going to wonder who's going to come along. I'm highly suggestive of the fact that there's always a buyer for something, if it's a practice or not. So if you've done some due diligence in your area and you can begin to put some of the strong points of what you have built into your practice, should you go to a listing or some type of practice broker, you at least have this appearance that you know your practice intimately, and then they can align you with the people who are looking for someone that fits your profile. So get a pen and paper out, put your practice on paper now if you haven't done it to this point.
Yeah, perfect. Any other home run tactics or things that you would have, our doctors here in Illinois take a look at that you've seen, or man, these are can't miss opportunities?
You're not supposed to ask about home runs because I'm a Detroit Tigers fan and they hit the least number of home runs in all of Major League Baseball. So, with that statistic in mind, I would say education. It's never too late to fill in the blanks on what you don't know. If you're not the interested party in growing this practice, if you're 5 years out from leaving or 7 years out, if you think that your practice value is going to go up with the same things you've done in your prior 20, 25, or 30 years, you're kind of fooling yourself. You have to upgrade your level of knowledge and relationship to valuing your practice, making it attractive, and don't ever put it to the curb at a lower value than it should be at, because there is a party who's interested in your practice, whatever it is.
Yeah, so normally I would ask you, how do you want to leave us? But really, I love what you just said there. I think that's really important, and I want our doctors to remember that, that it does. Your practice has value, and if you take some time now in your practice, even if you're 30 years away from retirement, you begin to position it today for that. I think they're better off. And at the end of the day, always remember that there is value, as long as you've given it the appropriate attention and aren't trying to sell it by tomorrow. It has value, and I really want to leave them with that. That was a really strong point. But I will ask anyway, anything you want to leave our doctors with?
I would say look for resources. I've got a couple that I think I know that your association is an amazingly strong association. You have internal resources and legal support. I always say only play an attorney on a nighttime television show. I'm not an attorney. Go to Mark for the resources that you need in the legal world. I'm always available. I mean, if you found some of the information here helpful, Mark can provide some contact information for him. I'm always happy to answer any questions that they might have.
Well, Doc, thank you so much. Love this time. Thank you for contributing. And really, thank you. And I mentioned at the beginning that your incredible service and valuable service to the Michigan Association of Chiropractors. I know the MAC has loved your leadership. In fact, I think you're doing some ongoing efforts and work with them through MichiCare and through AmeriCare. And also want to thank you for your incredible leadership in regards to the Chiropractic Future Strategic Plan. That has been unbelievable. Your work group is doing amazing work, and it's under your leadership. So thank you a ton, and we will catch you next week. Thank you, Dr. Don Reno.
Thank you.